all of us know about the whims of power. And I'll say it maybe in a different way. All of us know about being in a room of people, maybe as a child, when teams were being selected. And whether maybe you were the one who had the demonstrated athletic ability and you got chosen first, or you were the one who never really had a lot of athletic ability and you ended up being last or maybe not even playing because it was made clear that you were not welcome. We all know about the whims of inclusivity, the times when we were welcomed in because people thought we had something to give, or maybe they thought we had something they could take, right? And the times that we were excluded because they didn't know us or they didn't know how to welcome us. We all know when we've been given deference that we didn't really deserve, but it happened. And the times when we have been passed by, when we had to answer, when we had information, when we had clarity of vision. All of us know what it is to be given power and to be centered, sometimes when we have deserved it and at times when we have not. And all of us know what it is to be excluded, to not be welcomed. At times when we were probably kind of toxic, if we're honest, and at times when we were totally worthy to be there and capable of being there, and yet for whatever reason we're not given audience, we're not given attention, we're not given that welcome. And all of us know about that happening because of things that are completely outside of our control. Right? Whether we were tall enough or fast enough or strong enough, whether we had the right connections or had the right relationships, whether we, knew the right piece of information, whatever it is, we all have been welcomed and we all have been excluded. That's a universal thing, right? And that can be the foundation for us to dive deeper into what does it mean to exercise power, because welcome itself is power. Welcome itself is power. Think about the times that you have been immediately welcomed and brought in. Think about a time when you've approached a circle and that circle bent open to bring you in, and how that feels in your body to know like you have a home in this. You're part of this. You, in fact, help complete this. We wouldn't be this without you. And the way that that opens up your spirit to share and participate and be part of something, and the way that how you interpret that changes whether you will pivot to welcome the next person in. So this is the thing about power. It's so funny, right? Oftentimes when we are powerless and then we step into a place of having power, oftentimes we don't look back on where we were when we were powerless. We look around at now we are powerful, right? We don't look back on the times we were excluded. We look now on the times that we are included, and we see ourselves as part of this new set of people. And this is what power does to us, right? This is what inclusion does to us, is it says, I am part of this now. And it starts to feel static. It starts to feel like this is a real thing instead of this being a network of welcome, a network of power and relationship that we weren't part of before, and now we are part of. If welcome is power, then how we use our welcome really matters. If welcome is power, then the way that we welcome is an act of power, and therefore it really matters. Because, as we know, every time we experience having power, there is a temptation, as you all mentioned earlier, there is a temptation and an opportunity for power over. What is the difference between power over and power with? We heard this lifted up earlier in the conversation, and we talked a little bit about the difference between serving others and serving self. And I think that dichotomy of others and self is inherently problematic, because now it's about our needs or it's about their needs. And inevitably, there's going to be conflict there between our needs and their needs. And so how do we resolve this binary, this tension? Well, we have to constantly recenter God. We have to constantly recenter what is it that God wants, because God wants you to flourish. God wants you personally to be full of energy and creativity and life and vitality. God wants you to feel that sense of welcome. God wants you to know that this world needs you in it. This world would not be the world that God wanted if you weren't in it right now. And we know that it's temporary. We know that our lives are fleeting. We know that from dust we have come and to dust we shall return. And therefore, right now, it is amazing that you exist. It is amazing that you live. It is a blessing from God and to God. And at the same time, it is the same for all those other folks, even those folks that we really don't want to include, those folks we really don't want to welcome. They're a blessing from God too. And so then the question is not whether people are worthy, whether people are deserving of love and freedom and joy, but it's the how are we going to do it? It's the how are we going to do it? And we'll talk about this next week when we talk a little bit more. And the following week, we talk about safety and we talk about covenant and the ways that we do this. But ultimately, the point I want to make today is that welcome is power. And how we use our welcome matters. Because our power ultimately always comes from God. So this is the funny thing about power is we can think that our power is, I like to use the word durable. I'm sure if you've talked to me much, you've heard me use this word before, because the concept of durable suggests that something lasts beyond the moment, right? And so we talk about durable wealth. And one of the great problems in the world is the existence of durable wealth. Before durable wealth was created, you only had as much wealth as you had basically food you could make, right? Or products you could make. But a lot of that stuff wasn't durable. And so you had to share it. And then wealth was about the power of your relationships and who you shared with. If I gave all of you food, that would create a certain sense of wealth in our relationship for me. I would be able to demonstrate my generosity and my caring and my service. But once I could turn that food into money and I could put it in a bank, then it didn't matter what you thought about me. My wealth wasn't in our relationships. It was in this stuff that I turned into durable wealth. And now I could keep you from it and I could still be wealthy. But back when my wealth was not durable, I had to include you in it or I couldn't possibly be wealthy. The same thing is true about power. Durable power is dangerous because it convinces us that this free gift from God is actually something that we can hold on to, is actually something that we can claim as ours. When in reality, everything, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, right? Everything comes from God. But the second it becomes part of who we are, our power becomes who we are, then it's not about God anymore. God's not part of the equation anymore. So just like how durable wealth takes the relationship piece out of wealth, durable power takes the relationship piece out of power. Welcome itself is power. And when we stop welcoming people and decide, well, we're it, we got it figured out, then our power is now this kind of like, it ends up being this power to exclude, this power over, this power to say who's worthy and who's not worthy. And that is a deviation from God. The big work in the 21st century is really to honor the fact that there are power differences between us. I think when I look at the growth of anti-racism work, I look at the growth of feminist work, I look at the growth of queer inclusion work, especially in the 21st century, the big thing now is that when you walk into a room, you can't just be a person anymore. And some people are really upset by this because they really just want to be able to be a person. We want to walk into a room and just be able to be a beloved child of God in relationship with other beloved children of God and not have to worry about all this particularity, all this what's called identity politics, right? And it's derisively called identity politics. But I want to tell you that our man Jesus showed up seeing individual people, exactly who they were, and the places that they were included and the places that they were excluded. He saw the woman at the well. He saw the woman who had been hemorrhaging for years. He saw people in their particularity, in their places of being marginalized, excluded, their place of being poor and in pain. And he decided specifically to care for those people. And when he talked to Nazareth and they said, do a miracle here, he said there were so many lepers in the time of Elijah, but it was Naaman the Syrian, the outsider, who was the one that was cured. There were so many widows, but it was the widow of Zarephath, the outsider, who was healed. And I think what Jesus is trying to remind us of is that sometimes we can take for granted this power. We can take for granted these relationships instead of recognizing that all of this ultimately comes from God. And so in the 21st century, we have this challenge of being able to show up in these power dynamics and recognize the existence of these power dynamics and still say, I know that there's this difference, this access I've been granted or haven't been granted, and there's this access that you've been granted or haven't been granted that's shaped you and changed you and made possible certain things. And underneath that, I know you are a beloved child of God, and I am a beloved child of God. And what God wants is God wants wholeness and flourishing for both of us, for all of us. But we can't just pretend that those dynamics of inclusion and welcome aren't there and that they haven't really hurt people in the past. And so when the devil comes to Jesus and tries to tempt him to get all of this power, he's tempting him to have power without relationship. He's tempting him to claim power and authority from God, but not within relationship. He's tempting him with durable power. And our man Jesus is rejecting durable power because he knows that the most honest and the most godly form of power is relational power. It's the power that comes from being with, to being gathered together. The power of caring, the power of healing, the power of welcoming. Our welcome is a form of power. And therefore, we are obligated to use it responsibly and in a godly way. So I am so grateful for all of you to do this incredible reflection that you've done on how do you know whether your power comes from God or not, and what is the power that comes from God. And I encourage you just to continue to discern and think about, how will we know that this power, this access, this attention, this audience, this inclusion that we are experiencing right now, how will we remember that this is from, for, and with God? And therefore, how will we exercise that power in a way that honors that it is from, for, and with this God of inclusion, this God of love, this God of transformation?